On Friday, how many of you were here on Friday evening? Okay, I was here Friday evening. Friday evening we celebrated the appearance day of Lord Nrsingadev. Nrsinga Bhagavan ki jai. And the day following Nrsinga Chaturdasi is the Purnima, Vishaka Purnima. And on that day, yesterday, the Purnima, there are three important holidays. The appearance day of the deity of Radha Raman, a self-manifesting Krishna deity from a Shalagram Shila of one of Lord Chaitanya's followers, Gopal Bhatta Goswami. And we heard about Gopal Bhatta and his self-manifesting Radharaman. In Vrindavan, they had big festival. 500 liters, that's a lot of milk, bathing the deity. And it's a small deity, about 7 inches tall. Big festival in honor of the appearance of Radharaman and the appearance of Srinivas Acharya, who is in the line of Lord Chaitanya, Rupa Goswami, etc., Jiva Goswami, and the next in line. Very important Acharya in our line. And also the appearance of Madhavendra Puri. So we're going to spend some time this evening hearing about Madhavendra Puri. How many of you here are from Gujarat? So you all know Srinathaji, right? And he's on our altar. So Srinathaji was, before he was known as Srinathaji and residing and presiding in Natadwar, he was in Vrindavan. Did you know that?
Yes.
And his name was Gopal Giridhari. And Gopal Giridhari was a deity that was revealed or found by Madhavendra Puri. So we're going to hear something about his Gopal deity and the glories of Madhavendra Puri. The early part of his life, Madhavendra Puri, is not so well known because the main information we have about his life comes from this Gopal deity that we're going to hear the story of. He was in the line of Madhvacharya. His spiritual master's name was Lakshmipati Tirtha, Madhavendra Puri, Ishwara Puri, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and etc., the rest of the line of disciplic succession. And a very important personality. Say it 3 times. Very, very, very important personality in our disciplic line. Specifically important, aside from having the deity of Gopal come before him, as you see in this image, this painting. But we were discussing this in one of the home programs. Madhvacharya, where was his headquarters? Udupi. And as a sannyasi, Madhvacharya established 9 temples or mats. And the central one is Udupi Krishna. And Udupi Krishna is worshipped without Radha by his side. Just Udupi Krishna. And that's Madhva's, there's teachings that support that type of worship. And the contribution, specific ecstatic contribution of Madhvendra Puri, is that in that same line, he was initiated in that line. His Diksha Guru Lakshmi Pati Tirtha was in that line. But he, towards the concluding portion of his life, entered into a spontaneous, ecstatic mood of love, like the residents of Vrindavan, for Krishna. One of the beautiful songs that we sing, or stotras that we recite, is the prayers to Govinda. Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Now, one of those prayers to Govinda goes like this. Golokanamni nijadamni taleja tasya Devi maheshu haridama soteshu teshu Te te prabhava vihitascha yena Govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. And that's a prayer of Lord Brahma to Govinda, where he's describing the hierarchy of planetary arrangements from the place where Brahma was standing in Brahmaloka looking up. First he mentions Devi Dham, that's where we are, Phoenix. And not just Phoenix, this universe. Devi Dham, the realm of Devi. She presides. And above Devi Dham, Mahesh Dham, the abode of Lord Shiva, Mahesh. And above Mahesh Dham is Hari Dham, Vaikuntha, where Narayana presides. And above that is Goloka. Goloka. Goloka is the name of Krishnaloka, the planet of, in the Vaikuntha realm, in the spiritual sky, the Paravihom, Krishna resides. And the mood of love for Narayana in Vaikuntha is pure love in the mood of opulence. Aishvarya is the Sanskrit term. So seeing with awe and splendor, seeing the opulence of Narayan, everyone is in this mood of awe and veneration of Lord Narayana in Vaikuntha. So that same opulence or Aishvarya exists in Goloka, but there's something additional that's in Goloka that's not the same in Vaikuntha, and that is the intimacy of love, madhurya, sweetness. Madhavendra Puri entered into that madhurya, bhav, sweetness of love of the gopis for Krishna in Vrindavan. In the end of his life, towards the final stages of his life, we'll see almost at the very end the verse that he said over and over and over and over and over and over, and entered deeply into the mood of, essentially, the love of Radha for Krishna. You'll see. This is in Madhva's line. Now, you go to Udupi and you're not going to hear anybody speaking about the love of the gopis for Krishna. There's a really interesting story which there isn't time for. But Udupi Krishna, Madhvacharya was given, you know the story of how Udupi Krishna got to Udupi? there was a boat that was stuck on a sand dune. Madhva made an arrangement for the boat to get released from the sand dune. The captain of the boat wanted to give him a gift, so he accepted. There was a large block of chandan, sandalwood. And so it was given to Madhva. When the chandan broke open, inside was the Krishna deity. But that Krishna deity that was in the boat came from Dwarka. It's a long history, but the deity has some history connected with Krishna's time, a deity of Krishna worshipped during Krishna's time. Long story, without time for the details. Madhvacharya began worshipping that Krishna deity in Udupi. And that was the Lord of his life. But his worship was in the mood of Vaikuntha. Narayana. And then 8 other temples that are Leela avatars of the Lord. There's a Nrsimha temple in Udupi. We saw a picture on Friday evening. So, in that same line of Madhvacharya came Madhavendra Puri, many generations later. But in the mood of worshiping the Supreme Lord, he entered into this mood of the worship of Krishna that the residents of Vrindavan have for Krishna, in this Madhurya Bhav. And he, in turn, passed that on to his disciple, Ishwara Puri, in turn, who passed it on to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And that's the line in which we are following. But very important personality. He didn't change the teachings, he just entered into a very profound, ecstatic mood of love, as the residents in Vrindavan have for Krishna. So we don't know so much about his early life, other than he appeared sometime during the 1300s, which was before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared, which was in 1486. So sometime in the 1300s. And we hear about his life in this way. He was in the renounced order, sannyasi, as you see from his danda. And he was in the ultimate, the highest stage of sannyas. There are some details, but according to Vedic culture, Kutichak, Bahudak, Paribrajacharya, and Paramahansa. Without saying the names again, those are stages where one is in a household life, and when that stage of sannyas comes, the first stage is they move outside the village, and then every evening they would go to the village, and the family would bring something to his cottage living outside. Then the next stage, they wouldn't bring something to him. He would go into the village and perform madhukari, extend his cloth. People would give whatever donation they would like, some rice or some anything. And that was his sustenance. The third stage, Paribrajacharya, he wouldn't stay outside the village. He had no home. He would travel and travel and travel. And do the same, madhukari. Unknown people, people that never saw this sannyasi before, extending his uttariya, his upper garment, at the household's home and accept whatever alms they would give, and that was his sustenance. Madhavendra Puri was in the final stage where he never performed madhukari. He never went door to door and asked anybody for anything. If and only if people came and volunteered something, then he would accept. Now, if somebody did that in America, they would die. But in India, during the 1300s, it was not so uncommon, but it meant sometimes Madhavendra Puri would fast for some days. And only if somebody came and brought him something, so he would accept. So during this Paramahansa stage of his life, he was visiting holy places. And one of those holy places that he visited was Vrindavan. And during his travels in Vrindavan, of course, he went to Govardhan Hill. And one day, at Govardhan Hill, in a place where there were some cows, and there was a nice shade tree towards the end of the day, he sat under the tree and was chanting the holy name. And as he was sitting there very peacefully chanting the holy name, a little village boy came along and said, "My dear sir, I understand that you have been fasting, and in our village, nobody goes hungry, so the ladies, just at milking time, they gave me this pot of milk for you and asked for me to give it to you." Madhavendra Puri said, "Who are you and how did you know I was fasting?" He said, "I'm from the local village and the ladies understood that you were fasting, and so they asked me to bring this milk to you. I have to go now, it's milking time, but I'll come back later for the pot." And suddenly the boy just disappeared. So Madhavendra Puri was drinking the milk, thinking this is ambrosia, it's not just milk, it's very special. And the features of that young boy was so charming. And as the evening went on, the boy hadn't come back yet, but as he was dozing off while chanting, the same boy appeared to him in a dream. And he said, "I am Gopal. I'm the same cowherd boy that came to you and brought you the milk. I have been waiting for you to come here for a long time. In my deity form, my worship has been neglected because of invasion of foreign military troops. My deity form was hidden deep into the jungle by the side of Govardhan Hill. And I would like you to find me and begin my worship." And the boy disappeared in his dream. And Madhavendra Puri, by now it was nightfall. Madhavendra Puri was, who can imagine? He saw Krishna and he didn't recognize Krishna. So he felt very sad, but he also felt ecstatic. Krishna came. Krishna spoke with me. Krishna wants me to worship him. So all night long, he was chanting and chanting, waiting for the break of the morning day. Because he was a sannyasi, it was easy to get some village people with some tools to go into this jungly area where the deity indicated where he was. And sure enough, they found the deity. Now, here's a photograph of that place. It's alongside Govardhan Hill, where this exchange took place with Madhavendra Puri was Govinda Kund. Govinda Kund. It's a very nice place with some history connected with the Govardhan Leela. And Surabhi cow came and performed Abhishek of Krishna, forming Govinda Kund. Here's what it looked like inside. This is exactly where the deity was. Now, this doesn't look very jungly, but it was at the time because people became very civilized and chopped everything down and used it for firewood or whatever else they used. But it was then, at that time, it was literally a jungle. And he then placed the deity, with the assistance of people, up on the side of Govardhan Hill. And he knew all about deity worship, and so there's a very elaborate description of the arrangements that were made by Madhavendra Puri for bathing first, literally deity worship, bathing the deity with many, many, many buckets of water from Manasi Ganga, because Manasi Ganga is not so far, and then milk, and then anukut, vast amounts of prasadam were prepared by all the village people, smeared the body of the deity with oil, fragrant oil, and dressing the deity and ornamenting the deity and garlanding he did installation of the deity of Krishna and worshiped Krishna with great, great opulence. And the people of nearby villages, they heard about this. So they said, can we do it too? Can we make this offering, this Anukut festival? Very similar to Govardhan Puja, just big mountains of rice and rotis and everything, vegetable, whatever they had, milk products. So it went on for a month. People from different villages, they were in line. It's our evening. So worshipping of the Gopal deity in this way. And after that 1 month, gradually he established a standard of the worship of the deity Gopal. It's the deity of Gopal, Giri Dhari. There's Gopal lifting Govardhan Hill. So he continued like this for 2 years. He was a Paramahamsa sannyasi, so he didn't keep, a house. He lived just under a tree by the side of Govindakund, that very place where he was performing his bhajan kutir is right there by the side of Govindakund. And then one evening he had a dream. And in his dream, the deity Gopal appeared to him and said, summer is coming very soon, and my worship was neglected for so long. My body becomes very hot in the summer. I have another request of you. You've served me very nicely. I'd like you to get some camphor and some sandalwood and bring here, and during every day of the summer, anoint the camphor and sandalwood upon my body. That very night, before even the sun came up, he was off to go get the sandalwood and camphor. And in the course of his travel, he was heading for Jagannath Puri, because somehow in Jagannath Puri was known to have camphor and sandalwood in abundance. He went to the place where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu later would appear. There he met Advaita Acharya. You all know who Advaita Acharya is, right? Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita, Gadadhar, Srivas, Adi Gaura Bhaktavrinda. So Advaita Acharya became his disciple. Initiated disciple of Madhavendra Puri, one of them, Advaita Acharya. And then later he continued heading in a southerly direction, heading for Puri. And on his way, heading for Puri, he came to the Gopinath temple in Ramona, near Balasore. That's the nearby train stop. It's a little small village, Ramona, in Orissa. There's an amazing history of these deities, which I'm not going to go into because of time. But there's Gopinath in the middle, and Madan Mohan and Govinda by his side. Long history which there isn't time for. But he really appreciated how wonderfully the deity is being worshipped here. Here's a close-up of Gopinath. And so he was knowledgeable in deity worship, so he asked the pujari, what kind of offerings do you make for Gopinath? And the pujari told him, every evening we offer 12 pots of sweet rice or kheer. And it's really thick. Like you turn it, it just hardly even pours out. Very, very special. Amrita Keli, it was called. But so as he was watching the offering being made, Madhavendra Puri thought, if I could taste some of that kheer, then I could understand the ingredients and how it was prepared just by tasting it. And then I could make some for my Didi Gopal when I go back to Vrindavan. He was just thinking how to serve Gopal. And then it occurred to him, oh no, I'm thinking of enjoying what is being offered to Gopinath before it's even offered. I'm an offender. So he waited for the arti and offering to complete, and then he left the temple area. And he was off in the back side of the temple. There's a marketplace. And in the evening, the marketplace shuts down. So he just laid down in the marketplace to take rest for the night. He was a sannyasi. Doesn't need a, Ramada Inn or anything. So that night, after locking up the altar, because you do things like that in India, you make sure everything's locked up, the pujari had a dream. In the dream, the deity of Gopinath appeared and said, my dear pujari, you didn't notice, but there were 12 pots of kheer offered, and you only took 11. I hid pot number 12 behind the deity dress. Go right now to the altar, and you'll find pot number 12 of that kheer. And take that pot of kheer to Madhavendra Puri. He's taking rest in the marketplace. I want to give this kheer to him. It was a reciprocation with just a thought that he had. The pujari woke up. The dream was very vivid. He took his bath, got the key, locked it up. Somehow he got in, lifted up the garment, and sure enough, there was the pot of kheer behind the deity. And so he very reverentially took the pot of sweet rice and went into the marketplace and was calling out, Madhavendra Puri, Gopinath has stolen a pot of sweet rice for you. Madhavendra Puri, you're the most fortunate person in the whole universe. Madhavendra Puri, where are you? He woke up, hearing the pujari call. And when the pujari came and presented the pot of sweet rice, the pujari just fell at his feet. Said, you're not an ordinary being. You're so dear to Gopinath. He stole the sweet rice for you. He stole the sweet rice for you. Madhavendra Puri, you're so fortunate. crying. Madhavendra Puri started crying, just understanding the reciprocation of love of Gopinath for him. And he was taking the sweet rice, thinking how I can make this for my deity Gopal back in Vrindavan. He kept the clay pot, broke it into little pieces, tied it in his cloth, so that in the course of his travels he could eat the pot. He then thought, when it becomes known, the pujari is going to tell others, when it becomes known that the deity stole sweet rice from me, everyone's going to want to come and honor me. Oh, you're so special. So before the sun came up, he left, because he wasn't interested in honor and praise and all of that. Most people are interested in that, but not Madhavendra Puri. And he continued on his journey. And somehow somebody sent an SMS to Puri, and they found out about what happened in Ramuna even before he got there. Because the reputation of a person travels with the person, even at those times. So when he reached Jagannath Puri, he was received with great honor, very dear to Gopinath. So he stayed there for some time in Puri. The administrators of the temple made an arrangement that he would have ample supply of sandalwood, because that was his mission, to get sandalwood and camphor, expensive ingredients, and 2 people to help carry the sandalwood and camphor, and papers so that they could travel from one province to the other province and get clearance from the temple. The red carpet was rolled out for him. So on his way back to Vrindavan, he wanted to, there's Jagannath Puri where he visited. He came back to Ramuna. There's what today the inside very colorfully painted temple in the interior, because it's like a courtyard. There's the gate outside, you go inside the gate, and then here's the courtyard where the temple is over here, and other structures in the back and to the side. So he again saw the deity of Gopinath, and the experience was again a very ecstatic experience. And one more dream took place. In that dream, his deity of Gopal appeared and said, "Summer has already come. It's already very hot here in Vrindavan. So I want you to take that camphor and sandalwood and apply it to the body of Gopinath, because Gopinath and I are the same. There's no difference between us. Don't doubt this message. This is my instruction for you. Just stay here in Ramuna and distribute the sandalwood and camphor to Gopinath until all the sandalwood is gone and the heat of my body will be relieved. Follow my instruction." And he woke up in the morning, told the pujaris about this dream. The pujaris were really happy to have Madhavendra Puri's association and to have the sandalwood and camphor for their deity. So the whole summer long, his 2 assistants and some men from the temple, they ground the sandalwood and sprinkled camphor in it and applied the sandalwood and camphor very liberally to the body of Gopinath. Now there's another photograph of Gopinath deities. These are really hard to get photographs because they don't allow photographs. You kind of have to either sneak it or pay some extra rupees, or both. Huh? You have to ask them. Here's the deity of Gopal that Madhavendra Puri found, or that the personality Gopal told him where his deity form was. You saw the place where he discovered the deity. And then in passage of time, the Gopal deity was thought to be at risk. There's another image of the deity, Gopal. Here's the deity Sri Nathaji, because the deity was kept up on top of Govardhan Hill in a temple, but there was concern for the safety of the deity. So the deity was moved from invasion, just protect the deity. Because Vrindavan, there were many, many deities, and Aurangzeb wasn't far away, and they were concerned. So he was shifted to Natadwar. Most of the other deities of Vrindavan were taken to Jaipur, but this deed, long history, but instead was taken to Natadwar. So what is known as Sri Nathaji previously was Gopal Giri Dadi, worshipped by Madhavendra Puri. Now during the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which was maybe a little over a century, century and a half, something like that, after Madhavendra Puri, where Gopal was still being worshipped up on Govardhan Hill, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would not walk on Govardhan Hill. And we're not supposed to walk on Govardhan Hill either, because his understanding was Govardhan is not different than Krishna. Now the Brijbasis, they walk on Govardhan Hill, but Mahaprabhu wouldn't walk on Govardhan Hill. So he was at the bottom of Govardhan Hill in a mood of separation from Gopal, Giri Dadi. And so on one occasion, while he was there was fear of some military invasion, and so the pujaris brought Gopal down from the top of Govardhan Hill so that Lord Chaitanya could have his darshan for some days. And then after that danger was gone, he went back up. This pastime is described in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So Lord Chaitanya's life and the predecessor Acharya, so let's go back in time. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's spiritual master was Ishwara Puri. Ishwara Puri's spiritual master was Madhavendra Puri. Madhavendra Puri found the Gopal deity, and the Gopal deity was put on top of Govardhan Hill. Eventually, a little temple was built for him. Then eventually shifted to Natadwar. So this is the mantra that he recited over and over and over and over. So we'll recite it twice together. You ready? Ai Dina Dayadra Natha He Mathura Natha Tava Lokshaye Lokshyat Yo Hridayam Tvad Aloka Kataram Dayata Brahmyati Kim Karom Yaham Ai Dina Dayadra Natha He Mathura Natha Kadavalok Yase Hridayam Tvad Aloka Kataram Dayatam Brahmyati Kim Karom Yaham. Here's Srila Prabhupada's translation, very beautiful. O my Lord, O most merciful Master, O Master of Mathura, when shall I see you again? Because of my not seeing you, my agitated heart has become unsteady. O most beloved one, what shall I do now? So it's, O beloved one, is the mood of the gopis. And the mood overall is the mood of the residents of Vrindavan in their love for Krishna, feeling viraha bhav, separation. He entered deeply, profoundly into that state of consciousness and passed it on to his disciplic succession followers. Here's an image of Madhavendra Puri. After the sandalwood was finished and camphor, he went back and spent some time in Puri. After staying for some time in Puri, he went back to Ramuna, and his samadhi, his bhajan kutir and samadhi are there. So those of you that may have the good fortune of visiting Jagannath Puri, if your time permits, try to go to Balasore, and near Balasore is Ramuna, and see this beautiful deity of Chirakura Gopinath. And if you're very fortunate, you'll get some kheer. If you pre-arrange it, for sure you'll get it. And so his samadhi and bhajan kutir on the back side of the temple. In the interior of the temple, 3 generations after Mahaprabhu, was Rasikananda, a very ecstatic devotee whose samadhi is also there. It is said that Rasikananda left this world by entering into the body of Gopinath. There was a kirtan in the courtyard. He stood up, went straight for the altar, and entered into the body of the deity, not to be seen again. A very ecstatic devotee, Rasikananda. There's a wonderful description of his life. That's another day. So here's some nice description, what we know about the life of Madhavendra Puri, primarily based upon the teachings of Chaitanya Charitamrita and Krishnadas Kaviraj. Well, when Lord Chaitanya was traveling from, after he had taken sannyas at the age of 24, he was traveling from West Bengal to Puri in a southerly direction. So he passed through Ramuna, and when he passed through the Muna, then Lord Nityananda, because Lord Nityananda had also met Madhavendra Puri. For some people that are new, these names probably are confusing. But Lord Nityananda on our altar is Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya on the left. So Lord Nityananda, he was also on tour of holy places throughout all of India, just when he was like a teenager, traveling with a sannyasi. And one of the places he went to was where Madhavendra Puri was residing, somewhere in South India at the time. And when the two met, they were like eternal associates meeting for the first time. Very ecstatic description. This narration is found in Chaitanya Bhagavat, for those of you that like to go and check resources. The meeting between the two was super wonderful. Madhavendra Puri accepted Lord Nityananda as like a dear friend. Lord Nityananda accepted him as a spiritual master. He looked up to him and regarded him in that way. But they had this ecstatic exchange for a number of days. And Lord Nityananda had narrated all of this to Lord Chaitanya. The story you just heard of what happened in Ramuna, etc. So when Lord Chaitanya was traveling to Puri and they stopped from Ramuna, he told everything that he heard from Lord Nityananda. That's our system, disciplic succession. So I'm narrating a story, which to some of you is all new, but I'm speaking something that I've heard directly from Chaitanya Charitamrita. And that's heard directly by Krishna Das Kaviraj, who heard it in disciplic succession. We get an understanding of the lives of these great personalities in this way, by transparent hearing and repeating that sound vibration. And according to Srimad Bhagavatam, hearing about these great exalted personalities is spiritually equal to hearing about Krishna, because they're so intimately connected with Krishna. Anything to do with their lives is spiritual sound vibration. It's very purifying. So, for those of you that are newer, that the names are a little complicated, don't worry about the names. It's that the spiritual sound vibration and the pure devotion of Madhavendra Puri is enough. And gradually, by hearing, what to speak of seeing images of these personalities, one develops an affinity and a personal understanding of their role in the lives of this disciplic succession. Madhavendra Puri ki jai. I think we're ready to wrap up. We're done.